Hey everyone, MJY5 here with Becoming a Racer, Episode 3. With the intro, as promised. This video follows my progression of first-time experiences, going from novice struggles into rookie season trials, so to say. I spent 2021 learning on my sim, growing my skill exponentially in the frame of a single year. At the least, I had a solid understanding of racecraft. However, as my pace increased, it almost felt like the competition slowed down. I'm fast, but I'm not that fast. The sad truth is that the Xbox One community of sim racers was dying. The experienced players moved to newer consoles and PC. The amount of skill and overall participation in lobbies was starting to dwindle. At the time, these easy wins left me feeling unchallenged, as if I had learned everything there was to offer from the equipment I had. When 2022 rolled around, I had gotten the idea stuck in my head that I needed to take the next step into real life as soon as possible. I was under the assumption that I was behind for my age, and that most kids who wanted to be racing drivers had well established their place in karts by now. Living in Detroit, I wasn't faced with many options, and after doing some research, I found that the only karting league hosted remotely close to me was K1 Speed Indoor Karting. I had never heard of this place before, but they had a team cup. I was willing to give them a shot if it meant progression, and thankfully, my dad's wallet was too. Initially, I expected no more than what the other couple of karting places I had been to offered, but I found myself astonished by the atmosphere of K1.
Oh my gosh, but this is like Sebring. I'm about to get my butt kicked at Sebring. Oh yeah, these people are fast. I don't know if the speed is translating onto the phone, but oh my god.
Now, you may think I was overreacting a little bit, and I probably was. But the camera does not do justice just how awesome this track looks in person. A track that was about to host my first ever competitive karting session. Here is qualifying 2 of the 2022 K1 Speed Teen Cup Round 4 in April. I had arrived a little late and missed out on Q1, but I didn't see that as much of a problem, as long as I was able to get out there and just get some track time and these cool sounding karts, because they sound awesome.
There he goes.
My mom would be doing the recording for my first round at K1, and she usually records vertically, so that's why some shots may be a bit cut off here and there. But once I get a GoPro, hopefully I can present my karting experiences in a much more immersive manner. For my first time out, I wasn't very fast, but I wasn't expecting to be very fast. I also wasn't expecting there to be so much commotion, like crashes right in front of me for like the second lap of qualifying. After avoiding that Cars 2 Porter Corsa crash, I now know that the brakes work very well, and given how the only traffic I had in front of me now has pretty much wiped itself out, I took this time to get some clean laps in under my belt, because even as a newcomer, I found out that slow traffic still is a thing. Coming up to about the halfway point through Q2, I found myself stuck behind a slower driver. I took this as my first opportunity to learn how to pass around this circuit. However, I found that if you don't use your bumper, like the experienced drivers know how to do, then you're gonna have some trouble getting around here. A lap later, and all of my clean attempts at passing have failed, while the guy who used the bumper is running away. I try here to try and go for a very obviously closing gap, and it does not work. But if I do want to get around, it does seem that I'm gonna have to put these bumpers installed on the karts to use. It doesn't have to be anything lethal, but it definitely is going to have to be some contact involved given how tight this circuit is to try and go too wide. Qualifying 2 is now coming to an end, and I am still stuck behind the same slow driver, now with another faster driver on our tails. Here, I did get a run, but I think I ended up giving up that fight because he had the inside through those back turns back there. And at this point, it wasn't even really worth fighting, seeing as how qualifying was basically ending, and any attempt of getting a clean, fast lap is pretty much out the window, unfortunately. I do remember initially being a little irritated, but I now know I'm faster than at least one driver on the grid come race time, so there's always a positive to be taken out of any situation.
Oh, and also one more thing, you'll be able to hear it in my voice here in a minute. Racing these karts is incredible, but also very physically and mentally taxing.
That was crazy. That was crazy. Oh. I like this place.
Please don't crop an image of me wearing a head sock and using it as a profile picture, all right? It was my first time, and given it being my first time, I was very impressed with the speed of the karts, the track, as bumpy as it is, and overall just the competitive vibe you get racing with these other kids who are also just giving it their all to win. And that's what I love. That's what I want. Everyone on the grid just going out there and giving it their all.
Yeah, I had to stop talking so you could hear what I was talking about with the electric engines coming on and all that stuff, and like the blinking lights. These cars have headlights. I still can't get over that. Like, even though the karts don't need headlights because the track is always lit, but the fact that they have them, that's still dope.
Time to see if I have what it takes to stick with the pack. Or am I going to fall behind? Or am I going to get shoved into a wall? No matter what happens, it's race time here at K1. We are green for my first ever competitive kart league race, and the front runners are already banging doors. Heading up the bridge, I am able to hold on to my 6th place position. However, as we go down into the back half of the track, which is very hard to see, I do get just a tiny bit murdered, and I end up losing what little advantage I had after qualifying. There are still 11 laps left in this race, so not all hope is lost. My main goal is just not to come last. A lap later, I'm already back on the tail of this far back running group. So if I keep a consistent pace, my goal is definitely attainable. Going through the back half again, somebody else does get murdered once more. However, it is not me this time. I'm the one who assisted in the murder this time, as the driver ahead started to spin and I somewhat helped them finish it. I don't mean to sound happy about that or proud, but hey, I'm not last. Even if that situation was beneficial for me, it did lose us both time to the next driver ahead. And so at this point, I kind of had to put my head down, try to avoid missing the turn to apex by a mile, and do some clean laps in order to catch up to the next driver I was planning to overtake. Me and the 22 are significantly slower than the front runner's pace. And at the beginning of the race, I was a little worried about being lapped until I could hear collisions halfway across the track. If the front runners keep messing up like that, there is a small chance me and the 22 could possibly work together and catch up to them, and maybe both of us could score a podium.
So yeah, not a problem with me. You guys can go ahead and keep doing what you're doing.
And terrifying the bystanding parents just adds to the spectacle, in my opinion. Coming up to the halfway point through the race, I am now hot on the tail of the 22, looking to snatch that 5th place position. Notice how through this back half of the track, I am spot on his tail in the draft. Up to this point, keeping a consistent pace behind him, getting ready to maybe do a shake and bake with the bumper, right? But then throughout this next lap, the cart starts to feel off and I start to lose pace drastically and the porpoising is like Mercedes F1 level, as if it wasn't already bad enough before. And now I am way behind the number 22, possibly about to lose another position. I pull over because I notice that something is wrong with the wheel of my cart. It's broken. The wheel of my cart is broken. Let's see if we can get a closer look at what happened. That is terrible.
He needs some milk.
Yeah, I guess that's my race over, or at least I thought it was. I've never had anything like this happen to me at a rental car place before, and it just had to happen now in one of the most fierce karting battles of my life on my competitive karting debut. They did give me another cart, just so I could get my money's worth. However, now having suffered from main character syndrome, where everything either goes incredibly great or terribly horrific, there is no in between, I find myself not only in last place, but also a lap down, or I think I was about to go a lap down. Yes, those now are the leaders behind me, not whoever I was supposed to be fighting for position. And as one could expect, this whole chain of events left a sour taste in my mouth, as it would for anybody who experiences something like this. But especially for me, seeing as how this is my first impression to my rivals who I would hope to come back later throughout the year and duel with some more. I mean, at this point, I felt obligated to come back just to show them that despite whatever the cart is doing, I have what it takes to fight for podium positions. Moving on to round 5 of the T1 of the K1 Speed Teen Cup. Now in qualifying one, because instead of being 30 minutes late, I was 30 minutes early this time. My sister would be doing the recording for this event, so please excuse any abrupt shaking. Speaking of shaking, you see me getting a little sideways right there with the cart. I actually didn't know that was possible before then. I used qualifying 1 as basically a practice session just to get back familiar with the way the carts drive and the track, because between the races, it's about a month. Each round is hosted on the first Tuesday of every month. So with this being my second time, it's not the easiest just to get in there and start putting down hot laps immediately. I will say though that qualifying 1 went smoothly, and I did accomplish my goal of just getting back into the flow. While there was some traffic, there's always going to be traffic. There was nowhere near as much as there was my first time showing up here. As you'll see during this rollout for qualifying 2, I end up pulling out of pit lane in the last position, and so far, all 3 of my times doing qualifying stints at K1 have started with me in last position, and that's been a primary contributor for the amount of traffic I end up dealing with throughout the session. So after this round, I do end up getting that taken care of because it's quite annoying always being placed at the back and not even knowing why on top of that. Thankfully, once again, it didn't matter this session because there was no traffic to get in my way, despite there being more drivers than there were last month. I'd say that's a good indicator of the speed and strength of the field. In theory, everyone should be pretty close together, relatively speaking, when it comes to pace. As I rolled in the pit lane, I hoped that my efforts would be enough, and that wherever I started from, it wouldn't be near the back of this even larger than before grid. The appetizer rounds are over. It is time for the main course. I was able to secure myself a 6th place position after both qualifyings. Not terrible, but not amazing either. However, all that means is that everyone in front of me should be faster. So as long as I keep up with the pack, stay out of trouble, should be able to come home in at least the position I started in, if not greater. It's time for round 5 of the 2022 K1 Speed Team Cup. And we are away with slightly delayed power, probably because of how many carts there are going through the first couple turns. But just like that, we're up and running at full pace, heading over the bridge. Coming around to complete the first lap, the front runner's already trying to break away as I'm battling for 6th position, momentarily getting dropped down to 7th, giving previously 7th place a little bump there heading up the bridge. Coming back around to complete lap 2 now, I am not letting that number 5 driver out of my sights at all whatsoever. Our battle persisted for a good 2 to 4 laps. All the while, I'm gaining time on him while he's gaining time on the group ahead. However, before this large mid-pack scramble ensues, I do want to make sure I'm ahead of him. Now as we head on through lap 5, I'm closer than I've been since the beginning of the race to the number 5 car, sending it around the outside of the back turns, being able to successfully secure the 6th place position once more. With him done and dusted, now it's all about getting back into that hot lap state. The guys in front squabbling with each other, allowing me to gain time even further. Back in 2022, the term locked in wasn't very popular, but if it was, that's what this would be. I was locked in. A couple laps later, I've showed up to the party, now trailing the battle ahead, hopefully being able to capitalize on any mistakes either one of them make. Through the back portion of the track once more, all of us, nose to tail, coming around to enter the last few laps of the race in a snake-like formation. And while the camera angle and shaking may make it very hard to see, I am able to get the 5th place position after coming down through the bridge. As we circle round through the front portion of the track, we only have 4 more laps left in this race. 4 more laps to possibly gain another position. Down to 3 laps now, I'm even closer than I was before, constantly gaining time, putting pressure on the number 8 car ahead. However, at the same time, I have to be careful because the drivers behind are not that far behind. Any mistake from me and I could lose all the progress that I've worked hard for. Coming around now to start the final lap. This is my last chance to try anything on this number 8 car ahead. Him once again looking back because he knows I'm there, he knows I'm looking, and he knows I'm willing to send it around the outside as I do right here. Going through the back half of the track, it does not work. He closes the door, heading through the S's. Unfortunately, there are no more opportunities left, and I'm going to have to settle for a 5th place position. Luckily, though, that's all I had to settle for, as the other 2 drivers behind are right there. That was by far the most enthralling battle of my life, of my entire life, when it comes to on-track racing. And towards the end of this video, you'll be able to see my 2022 self talk about that more. Here are the points I've gathered so far in April and May of the 2022 Teen Cup. A total of 6, so not that many so far. However, I'd say it's a very good start for my first ever time competitively racing karts in any environment, even if it is rental karts. A great drive today for Marcus Rodgers. That guy must be awesome, Mr. Rodgers. We had quite a large driver post-race ceremony after the race, obviously because the sheer amount of people in attendance was larger. And given that, I'm proud of myself that I was able to finish so high within the best of the rest, so to say. The top 3, they were just gone. However, I hope to finish on the podium next time. I finished 7th in the first round, 5th in this round, round 6. Keep the upward trend of gaining by 2 positions. That's a 3rd place finish. Before I leave you with the past version of myself, I'm going to do the outro right here. Thank you everyone for watching Becoming a Racer episode 3. If you did enjoy, make sure you smash that like button, obliterate the subscribe button, and don't forget to tap that bell so you can catch the next episode of Becoming a Racer.
Okay, so it is one heck of a forecast out here in Oxford, but out of all of that, if you guys can see, I finished 5th. I qualified 6th for qualifying 1, and I thought I made it up to 5th position for qualifying 2. I'm not sure what happened there, but I managed to get myself back in 5th anyway. It was some nice racing, I have to say. Like, that whole time, well, not the whole time, at the beginning there was like that one slow person, but once me and like a few others got past her, like, I was expecting to kind of just be held up, but I wasn't being held up. Like, these kids were actually fighting for positions with me. And I know some of you are probably like, yeah, this is what they're supposed to do with the championship for points, but I've just never, like, been physically in that position, especially against other kids my age, having to fight for my position. The closest I've ever gotten to what I just did there, barely managing 5th, was the closest I've ever got to fighting for my life for a 5th position is on Assetto Corsa Competizione. And on there, it's a much likely chance I wasn't going against other teenagers, probably like people much older than me, and just only as experienced as me. And just that whole 3 sessions, the 2 qualifyings, and especially the race, that was the best ever, as far as this moment goes, in-person race I've ever had anywhere. I'm sure that's bound to change the more I level up through different leagues and championships all around the world. But yeah, for now, that's a new record holder as best finish and best competitive race ever.